Wonderful. We're going to get started. So hello and welcome to the more than 500 people who've registered and are attending today's webinar. We're really excited to have so many folks interested in learning more about mobile. Before we begin, I wanted to let everyone know that this webinar is being recorded and these slides will be posted on the Google Mobile Ads blog afterwards. We'd also like you to please mute your audio if you're dialed into the BT conference, and to also ask questions. You can ask questions and type them into the chat box in the lower right-hand side. We'll save some time at the end for some Q&A. So just by way of introduction, so you know who you're listening to, my name is Di Pham, and I'm a Group Product Marketing Manager in the Mobile Ads team. I've been focusing on mobile advertising and making mobile-friendly websites for the past 2 years here at Google.
Hi everyone, this is Sonia Lee. I'm Associate Product Marketing Manager also on the Mobile Ads Marketing team at Google. So we're thrilled that all of you are here today, and definitely please chat in your questions in the Q&A box. We'd really love to hear from you. Let us know what's interesting. Let us know if you have any questions.
Great. So first, before we start, I just wanted to let you know that this webinar is part of a newly launched initiative from Google called GoMo. And this initiative is dedicated to helping businesses go mobile by providing tools and resources for businesses to make their websites more mobile-friendly. To our agency partners on the call today, we hope that this initiative is a valuable resource for you to utilize with clients. We'll also be sharing more about this initiative later on in our webinar, but in the meantime, we want to encourage you to please tweet us during the event at GoMobile. We'd love to see what your interests are from our presentation today. So let's get started. Here's what we'll be covering. First, we'll quickly go over the mobile landscape and how mobile has gone mainstream. Second, we'll discuss why mobile sites matter. Next, we'll share the 10 best practices of good mobile websites, and then we'll see how these practices are played out in action via case studies of companies that have actually implemented these mobile best practices. And then finally, we want to help you get started building mobile-friendly websites, and we'll share some tips and tools for how you can do so. So let's begin with the mobile momentum. Now, many of you are probably familiar with Mary Meeker, and she says that mobile is ramping up faster than any other technology that we've seen in the past. It's clear that mobile is one, if not the fastest growing technology medium in recent history. So it's clear that smartphones have officially gone mainstream. And in fact, it's predicted by the end of this year that over half of Americans will have a smartphone. And this is important because mobile is really transforming consumer behavior. Mobile devices are always on and always with us. We have them when we're commuting, we use it when we're traveling for work, or just at home when we're not at our desk. Mobile devices have made it possible for me, the consumer, to be more connected online at all times. It's changed the when, where, and how a business can connect to its customers. Now, one of the key reasons why it's important to go mobile is that mobile has really changed this consumer behavior. Let's take a look at an example of how mobile is changing commerce and how people are shopping. Smartphones make it easy for us to access the mobile web. What we've seen at Google is that rates of mobile web usage, including search, have increased in stride. In fact, mobile searches have grown 5-fold in the past 2 years. The slide that we're looking at here takes a look at mobile kind of shopping queries and a phenomenon that we're seeing, which is that there's a double peak in mobile queries around the holiday season. If the upcoming Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday is a key time for your business or your client, you should take note. In the past 2 years, we've seen mobile devices do what we call this double peak on Thanksgiving weekend and the week of Christmas, and it's continuing to grow. These are shoppers who are out and about looking for last-minute gifts and presents. So look left to right on this graph at the queries quickly escalating from 2009 to now. We're seeing almost triple the growth in query volume. And based on projections, we expect mobile activity to continue to grow significantly as we enter the 2011 holiday season. So as we move into our discussions about mobile sites, you need to think, what is the experience that you're giving your holiday shopper? What is the experience that these mobile consumers are having as they're trying to access your site while they're on the go? This really helps us to understand, why mobile-friendly sites matter. So if you think, back to the early 90s, you've seen something like this. Consumer web adoption took off, and although consumers were jumping online, many businesses hesitated to create websites. Back then they were convinced that their users weren't online and that users wouldn't convert for them in the new internet space. Well, we all know what happened. The internet ramped up faster than anyone could have imagined. Those who took action early had an edge on their competitors. Those who hesitated were playing catch-up. I think you all know where I'm going with this. We're seeing the same trends happening with mobile, only faster. The mobile web is ramping up 8 times faster than the internet grew in the early 90s. 8 times. In a couple of years, not having a full mobile strategy would seem just as silly as not having a desktop web presence. So now I ask you, which would you prefer to use? Right? We probably have all had this experience on the left when we pull up a website, a desktop website on our mobile phones. Now, would you prefer that type of experience, or would you prefer a mobile-friendly website? So, looking at the tickets now in a website, on the left hand, can you read the content on their full site without squinting, or could you easily find tickets to a particular event? Their mobile site, on the other hand, is easily viewed on the phone screen with clear links, for me to tap on and buy tickets from. And I can even search their full list of events easily. So, before we continue, you may have seen a question pop up in the lower right-hand side. We wanted to find out from those on the call today, does your business or does your client have a mobile website? Please let us know in the poll in the chat box. And we'll just take a few minutes to see your answers and get them tallied. So we're sorry about that. We are still waiting for the poll results to come in. Thought that would come in a little bit quicker, and hopefully we'll have that for you by the end of the session. But from our own internal Google data, what we have found is that only 79% of top advertisers, of top Google advertisers, only 21% of top Google advertisers have a mobile-friendly website, which means that nearly 80% are still giving their users just a desktop experience. They're not giving a mobile-optimized experience. And this is unfortunate, right, because mobile users have high expectations. Your customers generally expect their mobile experience to be just as good as their desktop one. Speed and load times are especially important while they're on the go and looking for information. Most mobile users, 38%, are only willing to wait 30 seconds or less to complete a simple transaction. Mobile users are they have very short attention spans. They want to achieve things quickly. So you have to ensure that your mobile site is providing that quick experience, both in loading and their ability to access information. So why is it important to invest in a mobile site? Research shows that mobile-optimized websites help boost user engagement on your site. And for e-commerce clients, your customers are 51% more likely to purchase. You also want to invest in a mobile site for retention purposes. 40% of users surveyed said that they would visit a competitor site instead due to a bad mobile experience. We didn't include it here, but we've also seen the same piece of research say, that like 11% of users are so frustrated by the experience that they get on their phones that they actually curse at their phones and they throw it across the room. That's definitely not the brand experience you want your customers to be having when they're visiting your site. So, moving ahead, we now like to introduce to you a set of 10 best practices for mobile sites across industries. We want to help you understand what makes a good mobile website. So with this, I'm going to, so these are the 10 best practices here. And, I'll leave it up for just a second so you can take a quick look at it. But we're going to actually go through each one of these via an illustrated example of a client, of a business that's actually implementing these. Okay, with that, Sonia, do you want to share the first best practice?
Sure, let's do it. All right, everybody. First and foremost, keep it quick. So no one wants to be overwhelmed when they're looking on a mobile site, right? So help your mobile users find what they want and help them get to it quickly. Design your site to load efficiently and make your site copy really easy to scan. Ideally, you should avoid having a lot of text and really just stick to the main bullets that you want your visitors to know. So, for example, take a look at here. CBS has chosen to put the show Persons of Interest, their latest videos, front and center of its mobile site. They made some choices in prioritizing the most applicable content for mobile. If you've ever seen the desktop page for this show, Persons of Interest has a lot of additional content, a lot of social elements where fans can chat, engage with the actors, vote for the show. But, CBS has really chosen to keep what they see as the most valuable content for the mobile user, videos that someone can watch on the go. So the lesson here is no matter how rich the content or your design elements are on your full desktop site, keep it simple and keep it quick on mobile.
Great. The next best practice is to simplify navigation. It's important to make it easy for people to get around. Ideally, people should only scroll one way. Like on touch screens, that's usually from top to down, just like you've seen in PacSun example. So for mobile sites, the best practice is to keep the scrolling to vertical scrolling. And the most direct way to help someone get to where they want to go is to let them search. Just like PacSun's done here. So if your site has a lot of content, it's really content rich, make search prominent and easily accessible. And that helps them to browse, through the screen and get to information much quicker. Also, your navigation should have a clear hierarchy, and you want to avoid rollovers because that doesn't work very well on the mobile phone. I like this PacSun example because you can see, like this, the men's category that, we've clicked on that, and it unfolds, and you can see the categories below it. So there's a nice clear hierarchy here.
Third, on mobile touchscreens, remember everybody, you're designing for fingers, not mice. So pad your links and pad your buttons so that it's really clear where your users need to click. Making all your links isolated will help, and it'll really help prevent, against what we call accidental clicks, which on a mobile phone can often be a lot more cumbersome than on a computer. So look on the left here. You can see that in this Affleck example, and then on the Hair Club for Men example on the right, they've taken a lot of, these 2 or 3 best practices that we've just discovered to heart. They've made their content and layout really simple to access. You'll see in Affleck they've built clear, distinct tabs for each of their key visitor groups. On the right, Hair Club places their call button at the very top. It's clear, right? If you want to make a call, there's nowhere else you could really click on. And it's away from all the other links on that page so that anyone who wants to talk to a rep can quickly click on that button and dial without accidentally clicking elsewhere. This is what we mean by thumb-friendly.
Fourth, it's really important that your site's designed for visibility. Now, make sure that your content can be read at arm's length. People are generally looking down at a screen that's 10% the size of their computer monitors. So make sure that your content is viewable without having to pinch and zoom in. Esurance does a great job with this on their mobile site. They have large buttons around each of their links. They have plenty of space, and there's a clear contrast between the background color and the content. So it's really, really easy to read.
Get accessible. What do we mean by that? Well, don't create roadblocks for people trying to find information on your mobile site. So here are a couple of tips. First, and most obviously, try not to use Flash. It really doesn't work for a lot of mobile devices. Instead, consider using HTML5 to create great interactive experiences on mobile. Remember that your phone, and you guys know this, you use your phone in different orientations, right? So both vertically and horizontally. So in designing a mobile site, adapt your site for both orientations. And ideally, keep users in the same place on the page when they tilt their phones from vertical to horizontal, or vice versa.
Next, one of the most important things for mobile is make it easy to convert, right? Ultimately, you want to make it easy for your visitors to take some sort of significant action. Do you want them to fill out a lead form, to come and visit you in person, or maybe just give you a call? Think about what the significant conversions you want your mobile users to take. Sometimes this may be different from mobile than on desktop. After all, your mobile users may be on the go, they're ready to take action, and have access to features on their phone that are unique to mobile, like their cameras, GPS, a barcode scanner. We'll cover more about how to use data to help guide that decision in a couple of slides down. But once you've decided on what you want your mobile user to do on your site, design to make it easier for them to take action and to convert. Keep the conversion process short. If you're using lead forms, don't put too many fields in. Decide what's the absolute minimum information that you need from them, because it's hard to enter information on the phone, right? But whatever you do in terms of asking for information, make it as easy as possible for them to put that data in. So whether that's a drop-down where they can select things, or radio buttons so they can, again, easily select things. Try to avoid having them type too much, in a mobile phone. This example here on Ryland, you can see that their forms are, for the Affleck quote, the form is very simple. On the left-hand side, the Ryland site, they make it easy to convert both by giving you access to the form, having a click-to-call phone number, providing directions so that you can easily find them. All things that make it easier for a user to convert.
Next, make it local. So do you know that over 1/3 of mobile searches on Google have some kind of local intent in them? How many of you on the call today have ever looked up a local business on your smartphone? How many of you on the call today have ever clicked and called a phone number from your smartphone for more information from that business? When we find local information on our phones, chances are we act on it. In fact, third-party research shows that after looking up a local business on their smartphone, 61% of users have then called a business from that phone, and 59% of users have visited its location after seeing it on their smartphones. So, in light of this, help people find and get to you from your mobile website. On your site, you should really make sure that your address, phone number, store locator with maps is all included in there. And if possible, include local deals or check-in offers for your business, just like the Sears example that you see on the left. You guys remember that earlier slide we showed about holiday shoppers? People will be on their phones in the coming weeks to help with in-person purchases and to find stores near them. So make sure that your mobile storefront is ready.
Great. Next, make it seamless. And what we mean by this is that in an ideal mobile experience, there should be a seamless flow from what a user is doing on a desktop site and what they're doing on their mobile site. So when shopping, the items I add to my cart on desktop should easily be accessible when I transition to my mobile phone. And I should be able to log in easily so that I don't have to find and type in all my payment and shipping information again. 1-800-Flowers has done a really good job of this on their mobile site. In fact, I think that they were just awarded the best m-commerce site. They make it easy for their customers to log into their accounts, to see favorites, and that experience that you enable to help them go back and forth between the desktop and mobile is really important, because that's how people shop today. A lot of times they start research, online, and then they go into the store and they're like, oh, I want to find out some more. And they're, shopping, and looking up your site while they're in the store. When we talk about making it seamless, it's not just, the log on functionality or the save cart functionality. That helps, but you also want to make the experience seamless from both a branding perspective, make sure that the look and feel is consistent, as well as, the key features and functionality that you offer on your desktop site should also be accessible on your mobile website.
Use mobile site redirects. So, your desktop site really should have a code that detects whether a user is coming from a mobile device and then automatically redirect them to the mobile site if they're on their phone. So that will provide them with, this mobile optimized experience. But as a best practice, it's important to give your users choices, right? So that includes the ability for them, if they want to head back over to your full desktop site on their phone if they choose. And on the screenshot here, take a look at the very bottom. You'll see the link that's included. Give them the choice to switch between desktop and mobile sites when you detect that even if you detect that someone's visiting from a mobile device.
Great. So the final best practice is to really, just listen, learn, and iterate. Don't expect to get it perfect on the first go. After all, think about the many tweaks and adjustments you made to your desktop site. Listen to your users after you launch a mobile website, but also let the data speak for itself. Use Google Analytics or whatever website analytics package you have to understand how mobile users are interacting with your site, and make adjustments and iterations based off of what content is popular, what's driving the most conversions, what your mobile site users are doing. I think it's really, really important to not feel that you have to tackle and accomplish everything all at once, and that it's more important to get something out there, to learn from your users and continue to build off of that. So I'd like to just, before we jump into the next section, just pause to see if there are any questions from folks. We'll try to answer some as we go along via chat, but we'll also be queuing them up at the end as well. Great. Now that we've reviewed the 10 best practices for mobile sites, let's look and see how 2 companies have really brought these to life. These are the best practices in action. So Sonia's going to kick it off with Ryland Homes.
Thanks, Di. Now, if you're in the real estate construction business, or if you've ever, looked to buy a home, it's likely that you may have heard of Ryland Homes. They're actually one of America's top 5 production new home builders, and Ryland Homes relies pretty heavily on web-based sales and marketing efforts to sell direct to consumer or direct to home buyers. Now, you may have known this, but what you may not have known is that over the past year or so, they'd actually seen a really steady increase in mobile traffic to the Ryland desktop site, ryland.com, as you can see on the screen here. So imagine how this is going to look on a mobile phone. Well, Ryland Homes felt the same thing and recognized that, with this increase in mobile traffic, they really needed a mobile strategy to keep up with their customers. They needed to be wherever their customers were so they could engage with the Ryland Homes brand across devices and at all times. So if you've got your phone handy, pull up m.ryland.com, and let's take a look and see how they took some of our best practices into action. That's m.ryland.com.
Or you can just go to ryland.com and you'll be redirected to their mobile website.
Yeah, go ahead and check it out, and we'll walk through these. So you'll see here on the first screen that there are no links on this page. This is a pretty thumb-friendly, visible design. Ryland uses buttons instead of links, which gives their users more room and more space to touch and work on this touch screen. It's also really easy to read what's on the page, right? You don't have to squint, and there's not an awful lot of text and copy either, making it pretty easy for me to make a selection on the site. I'm from Southern California. It's very clear where I have to click. Next, you can also see how intuitive their navigation is. You can quickly switch between new homes, quick move in, look at a map for all the different locations. And it's also really easy to scroll up and down. It's clear where you need to look and where you need to go. And what I also like is that they've built the back button right into the site so people can get around easily, even on the mobile web. Next, Ryland Homes really focused on mobile conversion driving features. And what I mean is things like the clickable phone number for people to call them directly on their phones. They focused on prioritizing information with maps, directions to these homes, the hours in which their offices were open, and it's also accessible across different mobile devices. They also make it pretty accessible. They don't create roadblocks, right? They don't use any flash at all. It's all clear and streamlined for mobile and easy to navigate. And then let's take a look and see the results, kind of the initial preliminary results after about half a year of developing a mobile site. So they recognized that mobile traffic was growing. They recognized that they needed to be where their mobile customers or where their customers were across devices. So in conjunction with building this mobile site, Ryland actually sought to drive mobile users to this new homepage, to this m.ryland.com domain. And they did so through some AdWords mobile campaigns. So they used, in driving these mobile campaigns to their site, they actually saw leads, and this might be surprising to some of you, they actually saw leads coming in at 30% cheaper than on desktop. They even saw their site traffic grow by 300% from March to August of this year. And yes, even though they haven't launched for long, amidst this market, they even saw their first home sale that began with a mobile lead that came from the site. So clearly, a mobile-friendly user experience is beginning to pay off for Ryland. And we'll just leave this screen up here for a second so you guys can jot down some of these notes. Also, feel free to chat in any questions about the Ryland experience, and we'll try to answer them at the end of our call. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Di, who's going to share the experience of insurance auto auctions and their mobile site.
Great. Thanks, Sonia. So insurance auto auctions is one of the nation's largest vehicle buyers and auctioneers. They sell insurance salvage and donated vehicles. And, the company auctions more than 1.3 million vehicles a year. They also buy used cars directly from the public, and the cars.iai.com site is a critical vehicle for connecting to vehicle sellers. You get it? It's a critical vehicle? Anyway, my little cheesy attempt at a joke. So I love the story Joe Seeger told me about how he came to decide that his company needed a mobile website. Now, Joe is the VP of Product Development at IAI, and he led the charge in developing the mobile website. He told me that he was out on the street one day and saw some guy sitting in his car holding his phone in his hand, using it to surf. And it dawned on him that when someone has the first impulse to sell his car, that person often literally is sitting in his car. This initial insight was the motivation that spurred him to create a mobile website for his company. But before we take a look at the mobile site, let's see what Insurance Auto Auction's desktop website looks like. As you can see here, there's a lot of content there, such as the price guide. You can get vehicles, locations, and find out more about the company. They put their price guide, though, up front and center. So taking a look at their mobile site, the first thing you'll notice is how consistent the look and feel is going between the desktop site and the mobile site. They really carry their brand experience through in both channels. Now, Insurance Auto Auction also makes the experience seamless by ensuring that the key features and functionality of the desktop site are available on their mobile site, again, such as this price guide. Another best practice that they took good advantage of is making the site locally relevant to users. Now, they have more than 150 locations in the U.S. where you can sell your car, and so they make sure their store locator is easily accessible. Something else that I think is also really neat of how they're making their site kind of locally relevant is you notice that they have their phone number, but they also have the hours that they're open to, that the hours of their phone lines open to. And that's because they're taking advantage of the fact that, with the phone, you know where the user is, you know their location, so they can dynamically, surface for the user what the local phone-in hours are. So next, Insurance Auto Auctions practices fundamental mobile site best practices by automatically redirecting mobile users who come to their desktop site over to their mobile site. And if you look at the bottom of their mobile site, you'll see that they'll also give users access to their full desktop website in case there are users who prefer that option. Next, Insurance Auto Auctions knows that the primary goal of someone who wants to sell their car is to find out how much they can get for it. So they make their proprietary price guide quick to get to. It's right there from the home page, and it's one of the first things. The price guide shows a vehicle seller what they're likely to get for their car based on their make, model, and similar condition. Here in the actual price guide section, Insurance Auto Auctions continues to keep things quick by compressing images so that they load quickly, by featuring the most important information first, such as the picture, and the price, and then they let users drill down for more details. So making the most important functionality and information quick to get to is really important to driving conversion. Last, when Insurance Auto Auctions, first launched its website in January, they focused on the top things they knew were most important to mobile users. They didn't try to do everything at once or replicate their entire desktop website. They continued to monitor mobile site traffic and get feedback. So they focused on those key things, that price guide, the ability to call them, get an offer, all the key conversion information. But now with the basics covered and some learnings under their belt, they're continuing to do more. For instance, they wanted to invest more in branding and communicating their value proposition for what sets their company apart, right? Which is this price guide and explaining to them what this price guide exactly is. So they recently developed videos that they've just launched and made accessible on their mobile website, and they just actually made it accessible on their homepage as well. So know that this wasn't the first thing they did, but it was a nice continuous improvement. I was speaking, with Joe earlier, or speaking with Joe recently, and he also tells me that now they have their mobile website, they're planning to develop a tablet-optimized version of their website as well. So what have the results been for Insurance Auto Auctions? They've been tremendous, right? Traffic to their mobile site has soared on average 58% monthly. Right? This shows that they're clearly meeting a mobile demand. Insurance Auto Auctions has also launched a mobile-targeted AdWords campaign. So they're using mobile advertising to drive folks to their mobile site. And what's amazing is that they're seeing that 20% of all of their AdWords conversions are coming from their mobile site. That's incredible. That's 1 in 5 of their conversions being driven by mobile. And what's more is that they realize that their mobile campaigns going to their mobile site are driving leads within their target CPA. So they're achieving the ROI that they want. So now that you know what makes a good mobile website, and you've seen some actual examples of these, we'd like to next share with you some tips and tools for how you can get started in creating your own mobile-friendly website. So the first thing you should do before you begin building your mobile website is to simply see what your customers are seeing. It's really important that you understand what your customers are experiencing when they're visiting your site from a mobile device. Now, you can easily do this by pulling up your site on a smartphone, or you can run your site through our GOMO meter, which is on howtogomo.com. This is part of the GOMO initiative that I mentioned at the very beginning. The GOMO meter is an emulator tool that will show you what your site looks like on a smartphone. It's also a great tool for checking out your competitors or seeing who else in your industry has a mobile-friendly website. Now, if you're trying to convince others in your company to build a mobile site, it's really amazing how effective this first step is of simply taking a look in the mirror at your own site and showing others what the competition is doing. With the GOMO meter, you'll find out how your site scores on the mobile friendliness scale, and you'll also get some performance data on how fast your page loaded. After you answer a few questions based on your business type and the screenshot that you see, You can also get a free personalized report on how you can make your site more mobile friendly using the 10 best practices we just covered. So next, one thing that we really, really recommend is for you to take a look at your site analytics. It can give you a lot of insights on your mobile users. See how much of the traffic to your website is coming from mobile. I mean, I'll bet that this has risen significantly over time. Data like this can help you make a business case for investing in mobile and building a mobile-friendly website. Continuing in terms of looking at your site analytics, in the best practices, we talked about how it's important to keep things quick and make the most important information and features of your site easy to access. In most analytics tools, you can segment your traffic by mobile users and see what content is most important to them. What are the most popular pages or products? Where do mobile users go versus desktop users? Are they going to the store locator page? That gives you a clue that maybe you should make that prominent and quick to get to from your home page. Segmenting your reports by mobile traffic helps you prioritize the content, features, and functionality that's most important to your mobile users. You can and should apply this advanced segmentation of mobile users throughout your analytics reports, not just to your top content reports, right? So look at your goals, your conversions, and your e-commerce activity through this lens, through the segmentation of mobile users. See are there drop-off points in the conversion funnel different for mobile users than desktop? This gives you insight into how you might shorten or improve the conversion process for mobile users. Also, you might find interesting insights like, although there are less purchases made from mobile users, maybe their average order values might be higher. The key thing is to segment your traffic by mobile users, see what insights you gain to help you design a better mobile experience that can help drive conversions and meet your marketing goals. Next, before you begin building your mobile site, it's important to first ask yourself, what are your marketing and business goals? Do you want to drive straight lead generation? Do you have a new product that you're launching that you want to drive greater brand awareness around? This can also help determine the size and type of mobile site you need. For instance, maybe you can get started with just a mobile landing page like this DirecTV example. They use a mobile landing page with click-to-call functionality to drive leads and new subscriptions. Or you could build a campaign microsite for a new product launch, like Wacom did for their Bamboo Touch tablet. So, maybe your company has multiple products and services. It's a great way to start testing mobile sites is to just, maybe build a microsite for one of the products instead of for your entire site. But of course, you can optimize your full desktop website to be mobile friendly too. I just want to emphasize, again, the best practice of launching and learning. Don't think that you have to go all in and do your complete website if you're not ready to. Think about ways that you can do some early mobile tests to get data, such as through landing pages and microsites. Sometimes it's just better to start small, get some data, and take your learnings to improve the overall mobile experience. If you are doing your full mobile website, that's great. Just remember to continuously listen to your users and get feedback to improve your site. So once you've decided on the size and scope of the mobile site you want to develop, you may find that you need help actually building it. On How to Go Mo, we've compiled a listing of mobile site builders that can help. These companies span the range of mobile site offerings to meet your needs, whether you want some do-it-yourself tool and just something quick and simple, or whether you have more complex needs like e-commerce capability and want a full-service solution. There's a range of vendors here, a range of mobile site builders who can help you do this. So last, as I mentioned at the beginning, at Google we really care about the experiences that users have online, and GoMo is our initiative to help make the mobile web better and to move it forward. You can get more detailed information about the topics we covered in this webinar, from more facts on why mobile matters, to the 10 best practices, the GoMo meter, and the vendor directory, all on howtogomo.com. So thank you for taking time out to join us today. We hope that you find howtogomo.com resources in this webinar useful, and that it will help you as you build or advocate for mobile-friendly websites. We'll now open things up for your questions. As we get those prepared, I'll leave up this slide of additional mobile sites and mobile advertising resources. For those of you who joined the webinar later in the call, we will be posting these slides and recording this webinar to our Google Mobile Ads site in the next few days. So give us a sec as we queue up these questions.
And keep them coming, especially if you have questions about howtogomo.com and some of the services there. All right, we've got a quick question here about the GOMO meter. Is it free? Yes, it is. There's no cost associated with it. So all you have to do is go to howtogomo.com and then click on Get Started. And you'll be brought to the GOMO meter. You can plug in your URL. You can plug in your competitor's URL, your client's URL, whoever's website you want. And then you'll get this mobile readiness report. It's really great. You can download a PDF copy of it and email it out and email it around as well. I know we just had some questions for folks who are mobile site vendors and developers on our call today, and we're going to share with you, if you're interested, you can actually submit your company as a vendor. Just give us 1 second and we will ping it into the chat box. So this is for if you're a vendor interested in being featured in howtogomo.com and being featured in our site vendor directory, please fill out this form and we will take a look.
So there was a question about how to prioritize content for mobile, and like as we covered in the webinar, a key way to first get at like what you should prioritize is looking at your site analytics and looking at segmenting it by mobile users and your mobile traffic, and that'll give you a sense of the content that's most popular and what your mobile users want. So there was questions of, can we share, how should we do those things? Well, I guess we're hoping that we don't have any tutorials of how do you actually, build, these are the best practices, and we're hoping that this, helps show what a good mobile site should be and how to what it should look like in terms of actually implementing them. I think contacting again, one of the mobile site builders, and they will know how to code it and build it, in the best way.
Yeah, even if we flash back to that page, the vendors page, or if you guys visit howtogomo.com, you can segment by your budget, the time frame that you have to work with, and get different vendor recommendations for it or vendor results for it, based on your preferences.
So a question that we often get is, should I build a mobile app or should I build, a mobile website? And what we've typically found is that one, you're going to have to look at your user base, but mobile websites, have the advantage that you can build once and deploy across platforms and across devices. Whereas with mobile apps, you really have to build it specifically for that platform, for iPhone, for Android, and that can take a lot in terms of development costs. The other thing is that with the mobile web, you have a much wider reach. Mm-hmm. So, what we've heard and what we've, in our case studies and from our clients is that we see a lot of businesses first going with a mobile web first strategy and then building an app.
It's also a really great way to reach kind of the more top of funnel users, right? People who may not have known about your business, people who are just finding you from Google. Apps are definitely, we love apps here at Google, but you just also want to think about discoverability and how easy it is for your new and existing customers to find you. Are you easier to find in an app store, or are you easier to find, off a search results page, or even off someone typing in your website in?
And this is actually the approach that Ryland has taken. they built a mobile website first. And now if you go to their site, you can see that you can download apps for Android and for iPhone. And what they are doing is, so they had a mobile web first strategy, built an app, and their app also leads to their mobile website as well. There's a question about if best practices differ for like telephone devices, like smartphone devices versus tablet devices. There's probably a lot that is, in common, but generally, we think that tablet is more similar to computers to desktop or computers than they are to small phones in relation to kind of like their screen size and how people are using them. It's better to, I think tablet users are more frustrated when they pull up a mobile site on their tablet, because like the size of the mobile site is really small on a tablet versus like their desktop site rendering on a tablet. So there was, I think, a question about whether you can use Google Analytics for mobile. You absolutely can. You can apply the same code for your mobile site. And within Google Analytics itself, the screenshots that we have here are actually taken from Google Analytics. So the ability to drill down into the mobile devices report for your overall visitors, that's within Google Analytics. And you can create advanced segments on mobile users, right? There's a default advanced segment. But if you wanted to track, more specifically just iPhone users, or just track by the Android operating system, you can create an advanced segment and look at your cut and slice your data and see it specifically in that way. So there's a question about the Google mobile search engine strictly for mobile optimized sites. I think that this question is probably referring to or being confused with the fact that we have a crawler that can detect your mobile site and the mobile content of your site, and so you want to make sure that your sites are being indexed and being read by the Googlebot kind of mobile crawler.
Yeah, but to answer your question directly, there isn't a separate search engine altogether. No. That's not true.
Are there any other questions?
No, I think this is good. So thank you, everybody, for all of your questions. We will stick around for another minute or two if you guys want to chat in any more questions. But thank you so much for attending today. We'll be sending out the slides and the recording later on to the registrants, and so look out for that. And we'll also be posting a video on the Google Mobile Ads blog. If you are not subscribed to that, we recommend checking it out. Thanks, everybody, for attending today. We really appreciate it, and great questions.
Thank you again, everyone. We hope that you found this useful, and we'll be making all these resources available.
And check out howtogomo.com. Bye, everyone.